All right, let's dive into one of the biggest stories in all of human history, how we think about God. Seriously, it's a journey that has shaped just about everything: empires, civilizations, and the very way we see the world around us.
You know the story we're usually told, right? It starts in a world that's just brimming with gods, spirits, and all sorts of divine powers. You had Ra in Egypt, Zeus on Mount Olympus. Divinity was seemingly everywhere and in so many different forms. And then the story supposedly lands on this idea of a single universal God, one all-powerful, all-knowing being that stands completely alone. That's the popular version, the one we all kind of know. But come on, is history ever that simple? Is it really just this neat, clean progression from point A to point B, from polytheism to monotheism? Well, when you actually start to dig into it, you find a reality that is way more messy and honestly a lot more interesting. So this straight-line history we're all familiar with, it suggests this simple, inevitable march of progress. But as we're about to see, the real story is so much more dynamic than that.
And here is the absolute key to the whole thing. It's not a line, it's a network. Just imagine this giant global web where ideas about God are constantly zipping around along the superhighways of empire and trade. They mix, they merge, and sometimes they even echo back in new and incredibly powerful form.
Okay, so let's actually unpack this network idea to see how it works. To wrap our heads around this huge story, we can break it down into three key parts that'll help us map out how these powerful ideas moved around the world. So this slide gives us a brand new vocabulary. First up, you've got nodes. Think of these as the big cultural centers where major ideas about the divine really take shape, places like ancient China or India. Then you've got the edges. These are the pathways, like the Silk Road or Roman roads, that the ideas actually travel on. And finally, echoes. And trust me, this is where the story gets really, really cool.
Now, to really get this network, you got to understand something crucial. There isn't just one way to arrive at the idea of a single God. Different civilizations took totally different roads to get to the concept of one.
And this slide lays out the two fundamental approaches perfectly. On one side, you have Type 1, which is all about finding unity and diversity. It says, sure, there are many gods, but they're all just different windows looking out at the same single divine reality. But then you have Type 2, which draws a very hard line in the sand and says, nope, there is only one true God, and all the others are false. And these weren't just philosophical debates. They often became the very blueprints for how entire societies were built. Let's look at some of these global nodes up close. In ancient China, for instance, their top-level divine concept actually shifted. It went from a personal god named Shangdi to a more abstract idea called Tian, or heaven. And Tian wasn't just some passive force. It gave emperors the mandate of heaven, their very right to rule. So the God concept got completely tangled up with political power. Now hop over to India, and you see a classic example of Type 1, that inclusive unity. In the philosophical text known as the Upanishads, the countless gods of the Hindu pantheon could be seen as different expressions of one ultimate supreme reality called Brahman. It's a system that allows for incredible diversity under one philosophical umbrella. And then you have Rome. What a journey! Rome started with its own pantheon, with Jupiter at the top, but eventually it became one of the most powerful engines for Type 2 monotheism in history, especially after Christianity was legalized in 313 and then made the official state religion in 380. Okay, so we've got these nodes, these big idea hubs, but how in the world do the ideas actually move between them? What are these edges that connect the whole global network? Well, it's not magic. It's the nuts and bolts of history.
It really boils down to three main engines of change. First, you've got empire and law. An emperor's decree can just radically reshape the religious environment overnight. Second, there's trade and missionary work. Merchants and preachers carrying ideas in their heads right alongside the silks and spices in their bags. And third, there's just good old-fashioned cultural mixing, or syncretism, which can create brand new hybrid beliefs.
And this brings us to what is, for me, the most powerful and mind-bending concept in this whole network model, the echo. It's this idea that history is not a one-way street. Ideas don't just flow out from one place to another. They flow back. But when they return, they're changed. This is where that whole simple, straight line idea just gets completely thrown out the window. The civilization echo helps us see these incredible return waves, where an idea comes back home, but it's been transformed by the powerful empires and institutions it met along its journey. So an echo isn't just an idea bouncing back, right? It's the return of an idea that's been fundamentally altered by its travels. Think of it like this. A bunch of ideas are mixing together in some cosmopolitan empire. Then one version gets picked, sharpened by state power and law, and this new, supercharged version then travels back out into the world. And this timeline shows a powerful echo in action. It's just incredible. Let's walk through it. First, from about 300 BCE to 300 CE, you have this massive mixing zone in the Hellenistic world. Ideas from Greece, the Near East, Egypt, they're all just swirling together. Then, the Roman Empire steps onto the scene. It takes one of these ideas, exclusive monotheism, and sharpens it by making it the state religion. This is a total game changer. And finally, this new, empowered, institutionalized idea doesn't just stay in Rome. It echoes back east, carried along trade routes to places as far away as China. And later, you see another powerful monotheistic wave spread with Islamic traders deep into Southeast Asia. It's the ultimate proof that history is not a one-way street.
So, thinking about history this way, as a network of nodes, edges, and echoes, it gives us a really powerful new toolkit. It helps us see the past not as some simple line, but as this dynamic, living system of exchange and transformation. And it leaves us with a pretty big question, right? In our own global network, where ideas move faster than ever before, what concepts are mixing, sharpening, and getting ready to echo back right now?